Welcome to another Talking Insomnia episode. I'm super excited to have Ali with us. Welcome.
Hi, Daniel. Thank you for inviting me.
And for those of you who don't know Ali, she's been a real supporter of the channel. I think you've been following the channel for probably more than a year. And her real claim to fame on our channel is Ali is really, truly like the someone who taught me about what I first came to call the fearless method. And we'll talk about this soon. But Ali really taught me something about how, like, when the mind is trying to tell you something and you sort of do the opposite, that can be really, really helpful. And I just want to say overall to everyone that's tuning in that I've learned so much. There's probably 50 or 60 people who I know. I learned this from this person, this from that person. You're one of them, Ali. So I'm excited you're here.
Yeah, I'm glad, but I can say that I learned much more from you.
Well, thank you so much. Well, that said, so I think we should just basically talk about like your journey and then talk about some specific things. But so what happened? Like what happened and what made you found my channel, etc.
Yeah. So basically, like I started having the first initiation night was like last January. I started taking antibiotics. It was something like ofloxacin, or I don't know the name exactly. But actually, after like couple of days, I noticed that like I cannot fall asleep. So I was like, okay, I was wondering why it is. So I went, to read a book or do something, and then the sleepiness didn't come at all. So I was like, I spent the whole night like absolutely like zero, so like no sleep at all. Next morning I was like super surprised what's going on. And then after some time I just started like suspecting that it might be due to medication, and I was reading like the side effects, and there was actually like sleeplessness. And I was like, okay. So I immediately called the doctor, and I just said like, okay, I need to cancel it because it seems like doing something bad to my sleep. So, and we like canceled it, and I switched to another ones, and I was quite good like for a week or so. And then I went to a business trip in Italy, and then I didn't sleep there at all again. But I wasn't taking antibiotics already. So that was like crazy. I didn't know what was happening. And basically since that, I started, like going down that rabbit hole and researching, like trying to solve it SAP. I was like, the whole like time, I think like January and February was like nightmare. I probably like, I could go like 4 or 5 nights like with the zero sleep, like at least it felt like I didn't sleep at all. And I was really obsessed. I'm like anxious person like normally, but this was like really, really tough time for me. And I started even like doing like a journal or something where I was like marking each day, and I was putting like like face, whether it was smiling or sad face, just to say like to see like how many days I didn't sleep and how many hours I slept. I was like recording it like absolutely like 2 months it was like this. And then I started just wondering like what could be the source, and I started guessing like intuitively that probably this is something connected with anxiety. At that time I didn't know your channel, and this was actually like it's a pity, because I think I could have saved a lot of time of this like struggling if I would know you like earlier. But I came to my first kind of like hints or insights like through other sources, which was more like anxiety management. And I started learning like what is anxiety, and how the fear works and everything. And I started getting like thoughts that probably like insomnia is it has some phobic nature in itself. So and since like normally phobias are easily treated, like there are like effective treatments for different sorts of phobias, then why it's not possible to do the same for insomnia? And I started applying some of the things from actually like those phobia treatments, and it started working. And this is when I came to this fearless method, what you called, which was basically, I know that my brain was like fixed on this idea to solve the problem, like, and I was just started kind of like opposing to it, because like the way how you treat phobia is basically you're exposing yourself towards this fear. So you kind of like like becoming like more like brave and not like not being afraid of this. So I just started like doing the opposite of what my brain was telling me. Like, so and once I started doing that, and it was like I started sleeping better. That was the first, like, I don't know, like a week or two. It was like amazing. And I mean, I still slept maybe like 5-6 hours, but it was like much more than like 0 or 1 hour. So yeah, it was a big breakthrough. And then I found your channel, and this is when I actually wrote you like with that message. And then since then I started like also watching your videos, and I started learning a lot about like the sleep itself, and basically a lot of education. And then my sleep gradually became better. And I think sometime in end of May or June, I just started sleeping like absolutely great. I had like for 4 months, I had like every night was just like, a success or something like this. Yeah, like, so I didn't have any problems. And at the time I started gaining this kind of like confidence, and I was like, okay, I am a good sleeper now. Finally, I have the answer, like, and I was like kind of celebrating it. And I think you already get that this is going somewhere, right? Yeah. And actually in the end of I think it was like end of September, I started. There was just like one night when I had like, okay, I'm not sleeping really well. So I was just like, okay, what is it? I think started like, wondering, okay, maybe I'm doing something or not. I was just started checking. And I started getting back to this rabbit hole again. So it was like, it was quite a disappointment for me, because I was like, okay, I know everything, but why am I like again, like going down that road? I started doing the same, basically, like behaviors, but those, like, all the attempts, all my like efforts, they started so subtle, I just couldn't even figure it out. So this is when I just started writing to you again, like with some questions. And then this is how I actually discovered what you call this anti
Oh, the counter efforts.
counter effort. Yes, exactly. Because like I was like, okay, I know that I might stop, like, like consider stop drinking coffee. So I was just saying, okay, then I'm gonna, like, drink coffee anyway. But this was again like turned into an effort, like ironically. So and after I realized that okay, like not following effort, like any efforts, is actually like is becoming an effort. So I started like figuring out like how to deal with my anxious brain. So I started doing a little bit better. And then but it was still like not 100%. I still couldn't get this idea when we introduced this NATO, sorry. And I was like, I still didn't really like get what it means, like befriend wakefulness, like, like, or be kind to myself. It's like I know, like I understand it in theory, but in practice it was so hard. And actually, I think I had this kind of like very turbulent time until Christmas. And then something like happened during the time, and since the time I kind of, I think I got on the different level of understanding the issue. And basically after that, I, like, to be honest, I started sleeping like okay. And I was like, I quit the whole topic of this sleep. And basically this is why I stopped even watching videos, which is like, yeah, on one side is good, but I know that after some time I felt like, okay, it might be good, like just to come back and just to share my like thoughts and results and some like insights. Yeah, so basically currently I'm my nights are really like okay. So I don't really think about this problem anymore. And I stopped evaluating like my sleep in general. So basically I quit the whole like this thinking that I need to somehow define myself, like whether I'm a good sleeper or a bad sleeper, whatever. I just stopped doing that. And this was like very liberating. So yeah. And yeah, this is how, like, currently I'm really having like maybe one or couple of nights when I was like slightly difficult to fall asleep, but most of the nights I just like I just turn off and I don't know what's happening. I just wake up the next morning and I'm like, okay, I slept. Yeah.
This is fantastic to hear, and for everyone out there who is like kind of in the rabbit hole now, struggling, it's so helpful to see that you can get to a place where you're like you're not even thinking about it anymore, and it just happens. It's fantastic. So happy to hear this.
Yeah.
And I want to start actually by going over that again. That first message from you, where you talked about, like, I think it was a comment on the YouTube channel. We talked about this, what I later called the fearless method, which was basically, to go into a little bit more detail, I actually pretty much remember it. It was like you said that, okay, so if I sleep better at one night and I was on the left side of the bed, then my brain is trying to tell me, oh, so you have to be on the left side of the bed now. And then you're like, no, I'm going to be on the right side of the bed to show the brain. And same thing, like if I sleep little and I had coffee, then the brain's telling me don't drink coffee, but then I have two cups of coffee. That was it, right?
Yeah. This was a really powerful method in the beginning, when I actually when I was doing so many of those efforts that I could actually feel like I'm doing it and I'm not solving my anxiety, I'm just like making it worse. So I was doing the opposite. I would say, okay, you're afraid, like you're afraid to drink coffee, don't just like be it, and whatever happens. And this kind of like this bravery that I was like, doing those things gave me this like power, like to actually like not to care like whether I sleep or not. I know this is not absolutely like accurate way to say it, but at the time it like felt like, it's just like whatever happens. And this is like, it's a very strong approach, and I think like maybe not everyone would actually like find it useful, but for me I felt like I needed this kind of like initial push, like something like really strong because I was fearing insomnia so much that I needed something, like I needed this bravery, this like awareness was not really that much helpful. I mean, I applied in some way, like also awareness, when I was realizing, okay, I'm just like under stress, that like my thoughts are automatic. I know that my brain always finds some connections between, like, always comes up with bad news. So it's just the way how brain works, like any brain, especially like brain of an anxious person. So I just recognize those like natural thinking patterns that human brain like has. So I was just being aware of that, and I was taking steps like kind of like to show the opposite of those. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it's super important what you say. It's a kind of a confrontational way that for some people, I think for anybody who listens out there and thinking like, should I do that? Then it kind of depends on, if it feels like, yeah, I should do that, then you probably should. If you feel like, no, then you probably shouldn't. But I want to ask about, so when you phobias, of course, like did you read about things like phobias of spiders and like things of that nature, and then you applied that to insomnia, or what did you read about phobias that you turned into a way for insomnia?
Well, basically, it was more like not some. I think it's very much similar to this panic, like phobia of panic attacks. Yes, because this has like very similar nature. You're afraid of your thoughts. You're afraid of your like emotions, and then stuff that is happening in your body, and by actually being afraid of that, you trigger it again. So I think insomnia is basically the same. It's just like you are afraid of that moment when you like fall, like you lie down on bed, and then you will just find yourself awake, or you wake up at night and then you cannot fall asleep, or so on. So you're just afraid of this, And I think it also a little bit like has this moment that it's kind of like you have a memory of yourself not sleeping and struggling, and this was like very traumatizing event for you, and you still have this memory in yourself, and while this memory is still kind of active and you have this kind of like wound from that, it will be kind of like aching, and you will be like very sensitive to it, and actually working with that also like memory and just trying to reframe it is like really helps a lot. Because like why I came like currently what helped me to get into the state where I'm not fearing like of being awake, which actually does the opposite. Like I'm falling asleep like without any problems. Was actually that I created another memory of myself like being awake and having like really really good night. This was like very important. I think this is what happened during Christmas evening, like in Christmas time, and in one evening I was actually like very involved in some like book which I was like I really wanted to read it all, and I knew that okay, this is like pretty, you know, like long, and I'm just like I need to, you know, keep it like for tomorrow, for next week's. And then at night when I couldn't I didn't find myself like, you know, asleep, and then I decided okay, like that's a good time, like I have an excuse to keep reading that book. So I went to like to my living room and I started like reading that book. I made like very comfortable, like, you know, surrounding. I was seriously enjoying this time, and since that time I realized like having those positive memories of me not sleeping, or, you know, like having this is actually what means for me to befriend like wakefulness. Because now I it's like it's not my enemy, it's not something I'm avoiding, because I know that there is something what I'm interested in, and I would like to, you know, if it happens that I cannot sleep, then I'm just gonna do that, and I know that I'm gonna have a good time. So, and this was like
Yes.
really helpful. Yeah.
Absolutely, and you know, so insightful, and to kind of just stay a little bit on this topic longer, is that there's so many ways to talk about, you know, what is insomnia, but one of them could be one good way of talking about it is, like you say, that it is really a memory. It's a memory that's keeping you from not sleeping. And what is a memory? It's just how we think about the past. And the reality is that there is no past, right? The only thing that exists of the past is how we think about the past. So
Yeah.
if you kind of just change the memory, that's super helpful. I can totally see that.
And those memory usually, like, you know, when person goes like down that hole, it basically it keeps creating new memories, like new bad memories. So, you know, like first it's just like one innocent night when just like didn't know why they cannot fall asleep, but then it was a memory of I tried that and it didn't work. Again, another trauma on yourself. Like, and then, you know, like after this numerous like trials and errors, and you build very solid like a background of yourself not coping well with insomnia. So this builds up like more kind of resistance towards this kind of like effortless, this attitude that okay, if I don't sleep I will be okay. So I think like, yeah, like memory plays big role here. So
Absolutely. And now, I guess one more thing to add to this is that for somebody that hears this, I know that somebody who hears this will be like, oh, I gotta create that memory. I gotta create my good memory, which of course you can't do. Like you can't willfully create a good memory. It's just for you, it just happened, right? You're up reading that book at night, and then afterwards, like, oh, this could be my memory. This is a nice memory. So I would just say to anyone tuning in that just learn here on the channel and do this thing we call befriending wakefulness, and then you will have a night where you're up and awake, and it's all right, and that can become your memory. You can't create the memory by force, but it will happen, right?
Yeah, well, I wasn't doing it with this kind of intent. I need to
Exactly.
remember. It was like it happened so like naturally, and afterwards, when I was just thinking about the whole this experience, and then every night, like, you know, after that, when I was like going to sleep, and I start having those automatic thoughts, like, okay, what if I, you know, like it just starts like going around like your head, and it's still not that you know, sticky, but it's kind of like it's kind of there, and then I just like have like, yeah, but it happens that if that happens, I know what I'm gonna do. I just have like a picture in my head of my cozy living room, like with, you know, like with dim lights or whatever, you know, just whatever. It felt really good. I felt like I was at the time I was learning something. I was like very passionate about this particular topic, and I think, and probably like if you have some sort of like any interest that you like, that you would like to spend more time on, this could be it. It doesn't matter if it wakes you up or something, you know, like if you start, you know, reading or learning something at night, it's like no problem with that. But actually, if you start doing what you actually enjoy, this could start even for like forming that positive memory.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very, very well said. And I wanted to go in the direction of saying, okay, so you had this initial you know, with antibiotic thing, which was really, again, it was like a thoughts that drive that, and then you had the initial bout of insomnia, and then you did really well. And here's the thing where I think it's really important to talk about this one, because I think so many people find themselves in this place where you were, where you like, so you sort of had these big insights and you were sleeping well, and then in a very subtle way you start having these kind of little efforts again. And I know, like, you know, a lot of your comments and when you contribute channel, it was like you're like one of these like people who are like deep thinker, really getting into detail to figure things out, right?
This is anxious brain. That's how it works. You need to understand it.
So if you would talk to someone that is like in a similar spot, like going into these deep thoughts about things, like what's your kind of like, what are your tips or advice or thinking for someone who's maybe in that situation, like understands a lot but is still having these subtle efforts and thinking a lot?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think what really helps, like when there is, like when you pass that moment when you can recognize very obvious efforts, like you know that like when you're like doing something absolute, like, you know, like wrong, going the wrong direction, but when you're left with those kind of like tiny things which you like still not sure, I think this is like, I think this is what helped me in this situation actually was one of your episodes when you were talking about those counter efforts. And when you said that actually like just being aware of it, you know, like when you start like saying like, okay, you know, like I should keep my lights like slightly dimmed, or the opposite, you know, I need to put like, you know, like the brightest light ever just to show that I'm not scared, but which is can become the effort itself. So just like, you know, being aware of this is the effort. Like I would say like creating some sort of like metacognition about this like, so once you start looking at all those like automatic mechanisms and you know, like all the patterns, like kind of like from the side, not being involved in this, you know, like this is what it means, like being aware of your like automatic you know, unconscious like tries. So I think this really helps. Like,
Absolutely.
so every time I feel like, yeah, like what am I doing wrong? Like maybe I do something, you know, like it's actually keeps me, you know, and then when I find something, then I just like I just acknowledge it that okay, it's there, whatever. And it doesn't mean that I will not do it, you know. It's just the very important part is just like to recognize it and just know, okay, this is an effort, this is a counter effort, you know. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
this is like this kind of like mild method, like this fearless method, and probably like, you know, very pushy and very this kind of like is a fight, you know, and then this kind of like mild when you just like, you know, cool it down.
Yeah, no, well said. And I think I want to actually stay on this topic a little longer, and I'll basically sort of say what you said in my wording, because just to for everyone that tunes in to understand, and then you can kind of come back and comment on that again. So we just kind of like very basically, a sleep effort for anyone out there is like when you do something to make yourself sleep, like keeping the lights low to make myself sleep, which is not helpful because you're trying so hard, right? So not doing that is typically very helpful. But then what is a counter effort then? Well, it's when you say, okay, I have to not keep my lights dim so that I can sleep. And now you're trying to avoid the effort with so much force that in itself becomes an effort, right? So that's like the counter effort. And then often you can think, so I have to stop doing that too. But then you see, now you're creating like a counter effort. So that's when, in your words, Alina, I think that the most helpful is just actually taking note, being like, oh, I'm doing this effort, and now I'm creating this counter effort, and you're just aware of that. And like you said, Alina, it's like, then if we use another example of like sleepy time tea, it's kind of like I've used that as sleep effort, but I see that and now I'm trying to avoid it. It's a counter effort. Then be like, oh no, I understand everything and I can still have my sleepy time tea because now there's nothing attached to it. That becomes like, again, there's no doing, just awareness. And I know it's still, for people, it's still kind of like abstract for some people, but at least I try to get it a little bit more practical there. But
maybe
does that make
just
sense?
to add that like the effort does not like don't need to be like some sort of like action, like some behavior. It can be even a thought, you know, like because sometimes I was going to sleep with one thought, I think like Sasha Stevens says, talks about it as safety thought or something like this, or safety net or whatever. So basically it's some idea in your head that calmed you down, and you just for example, I usually had it like after listening a few of your videos where you were presenting some idea which was really clicked, and I was like, okay, it's it kind of instantly calmed me down, and I felt like, okay, I can go with this thought back to to bed, and I will be all right. Even if I will be just lying awake, I will be all right. And this kind of thought is very helpful. But after some time, once you start relying on it, just every night recreating this thought, trying to capture it again and again and again, this also can become an effort. And this is I think it's for very this kind of detailed thinkers or deep thinkers who really want to cover everything. So even thoughts, they could be efforts. So
absolutely, yeah. Super. That's such a good point. And I to stay on that one for a little second longer, I would say that we can use an example. I say things often being awake can't harm you, for example. And to a lot of people and they see that, yeah, that's right. Being awake is just that can't harm me. And then you go to bed and you're like, being awake can't harm me. You go to sleep, feels good. But then after a few nights, it can be like, okay, now I'm going to sleep again. Being awake can harm me. But then it doesn't. Wait, oh, I'm not sleeping, but being awake can't harm me. And then exactly like you said, even a thought can become an effort like exactly.
That. And after some time, I had the rule of thumb actually, which can become an effort if you start relying on it, of course. But after some time, when I was really good stretch of nights, and I started thinking, okay, I really got this. I know what's happening. I know why. The moment when you say to yourself, I got it, that means that you're not gay.
Yes, exactly.
This is the moment. Every time I said okay, I finally have the solution. I finally know what it is. It could be just some mindset or whatever. And then the moment when I say okay, I have the answer, you don't have the answer. Wait couple of nights and you'll be back there. So yeah, and I think I came when I look back the whole year, I think I had so many scenarios after so many this kind of regress of my sleep, and I was figuring out, okay, what could be this time, what kind of thinking would help me, because it was not about some actions, because I learned it clearly. Okay, if you go to sleep too early, this is an effort, or if you keep very strict sleep time when you have to go to sleep, as usually the sleep restriction does or suggests. This is also it's particular action that you're doing, but sometimes it's more like a mindset. You think you got the right mindset for you to come down to to basically prepare for sleep, and after so many kind of these hopes and then false, actually during those 4 months, this is a long time of very good sleeping. I thought I was absolutely perfect in master this, and you look my frustration was infinite when I started having this bag. So I think I already overcome so many situations that I came to, I would call it ultimate insight for me. And I don't know how about everyone, and I'm not sure that this is something that beginners or whatever, people who are just starting to learn about this should listen to or something. But I will put it in my words, but I would like to hear, maybe you could reframe it differently so it doesn't sound that scary. But my ultimate insight was basically there's nothing that can help you sleep better. It sounds scary, but once you realize there's literally nothing you can do or you can think that will make you sleep better, because by itself, in this sentence that make you sleep better, that means that you control it. You don't control it. This sleep is not the thing that is actually something that is in your power to change, and I wrote you in the email basically that now for me sleep became it's in the same category as breathing. You don't call someone, okay, he's a good breather, or I wish I could breathe today like very well, like you don't think about it, you just breathe, like, and to some level you can, like you can hold your breath as well as you can like stay awake, but eventually you will like you will like grasp the air, or you will fall asleep, and it will happen without your like with any thoughts, any actions. So basically, yeah, I think like currently I know that there's nothing that is gonna help me sleep better, and this thought kind of like cuts down all sorts of efforts, all sorts of like wondering like will I sleep tonight, or what will help me, like. So basically this is and I know like if I would hear that in the beginning, I would be so much discouraged, because it's like but there should be something, like that it's not possible, that there's no way, but this kind of thought is actually like that gives me like peace with everything. And funny enough that this is actually that helps me, not that it helps me, but just by having this like kind of inside in my head, I find myself that I just fall asleep, like I sleep okay. And that's the thing, like another point is that I stopped evaluating my sleep. I don't know, whenever like I usually my husband like sometimes like asks me in the morning like, oh, how did you sleep? And I'm like, I don't know, like I don't know, I like it's like I cannot say that I sleep good, because I don't know. I mean, like just I know that my head hit the pillow, and then I just like went blank, and then next I just woke up, and I have no idea how I fall asleep. I had no idea what I did. This is like and basically whenever like I was telling to my relatives like when I had this issue that okay, I have problems with sleep, and even sometimes they still like keep asking me like, okay, how is your sleep? And I just say like my sleep is like pre-insomnia. Like I don't say like it's good, it's bad, it's just the way it was before I started having this.
Exactly.
So and actually this is like the issue when I had those 4 months of really good sleep. I started having this kind of building like my identity of this good sleeper, and I was like having, okay, I'm really good sleeper, like so this is actually laying the ground for your brain to actually like find the ways how to prove you wrong. So next time you just have like innocent, like I don't know, you had some really bad day at work, and for some reason you just have it like a little bit like rough, like to fall asleep, and then you just start thinking, okay, but the fact that I'm not sleeping actually disproves that I'm not a good sleeper. How come? And you just start getting again like, how come I'm not sleeping? Like, but I used to sleep very well, like for 4 months. Like, what happened? So I just removed all tags, all labels regarding to sleep. Like, sleep is not the topic. I'm like, I would dedicate my time thinking about it or trying to solve it. It's just like it became the same as like breathing, walking, or whatever. It's just
yeah. Oh, this was great. So much helpful insight here. And I want to say a couple of things. One is, yes, you're right. Like, for anyone who's like completely new to this channel and hears this, it's like, I think this is basically the problem with like some of the like ACT, which you're probably familiar with, this like acceptance commitment therapy, which is like just accept things the way they are. If you don't understand your insomnia, you don't understand anything at all, then you can't go to a place immediately where you're just like, I'm fine with everything the way they are. Or when you hear like, there's nothing you can do to sleep better, it just feels like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
But that is ultimately the truth. And I think what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's basically when you say, and you believe it, that there's nothing I can do willfully, there's nothing I can do to sleep better or think to sleep better. Yeah. You're free. Yeah. You're free. There's nothing need to do or can't. Like, that's the ultimate like liberation, really.
Yeah. But again, like I think like each person who came to this, like who met with this problem, I think there should be this kind of like path where they just learn stuff, because without this learning, I would be like, okay, I cannot accept it.
Exactly.
It has to be something. And I think in this way, like my path of failures and like success, failure, so on. I have like all sorts of like situations where like there's nothing can surprise me, like or I mean, I don't say like nothing. I'm open to like whatever happens, yeah. But I had like experienced so much that actually like the only like what is constant is that like there's nothing that works like consistently well. You might think that, okay, like today you slept well because you thought that, or like you read the chapter in the book and it calmed you down, and this is the ultimate truth. It's not. Like, give it like a couple of weeks, it will stop working again, so there is always like, and basically like after this kind of like failures, and I think it's good, like I used to treat it as like, like failure, like really like I'm doing something bad, and then like I should be sleeping good. But actually the number of those kind of like falls like gave me this kind of understanding. It led to this understanding that, okay, there's nothing that can help me, I mean, but again, like, yeah, you have to have this experience. You don't jump to this conclusion right away,
Exactly.
This is why it's very important to learn about this topic and
exactly.
to go through those
and
stages.
as we're talking here, I'm just kind of seeing this interview from the perspective of someone who's really struggling. Then of course, that person will listen to this looking for the thing. I'm listening for the thing that's going to make me sleep. And if you look at you, Ali, like this is like, it was January, now we're in March. Like it was more than a year of like thinking, reflecting, working, and there's nothing you can do to really forcefully speed that up. Like it takes a while. Like if you've had trouble sleeping for a little bit and your thoughts aren't that ingrained, then it will be it's a quick journey for you maybe. But if you've had like really deep-seated thoughts, it will be a longer journey. There is no shortcut, but it's that nonetheless, like it's so great to hear that, once you see what you see, then things become so much easier. And I want to add one more thing, which was, and this is such an important point too, about like, you don't call somebody a good breather or a bad breather. Like we just breathe, right? It's the exact same thing. And this came, I guess it took a while for me to see this one, but the way I think about it is like, I do often say that you should maybe work on how your relationship with sleep and being awake. I believe that's true. But if you look at somebody who sleeps well, it is not that they have a good relationship with sleep or good relationship. It's that they don't have any relationship with sleep or being awake. There's really no relationship. So ultimately, you also want to be like, I have no particular relationship with it at all. It's just something, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, this is it. Like any sort of labeling, it puts you on that like kind of on that chessboard where you have to play them.
Right.
Like
yes.
So basically, by refusing to call yourself or any sort of like sleep or good, bad, mediocre or whatever, or evaluating your sleep like, okay, how did I sleep today? Well, or let's celebrate it or whatever. Like this is not in your like worldview, like the new like way how you look at world. Like there's no such topic as sleep. Like it's natural. It's like you like no one can like be awake for forever, and I like even on those moments when I was like had like I felt like I didn't sleep for, I think it was like 5 or 6 days. Like I seriously, like I had this cross on that calendar when I was like no sleep at all. I'm sure that I did sleep because like time was passing like this, like I was feeling kind of like awake all the time, but at the same time I was not like dropping that, from it. Like, and now I know that this is absolutely impossible that you don't sleep at all. So, and actually this thought, learning about this paradoxical insomnia, which is basically when you think that you don't sleep, but in fact you do sleep, and this is like well measured by like sleep studies or everything. This kind of like idea that I learned about this, like that there's such a thing like exists already, kind of like cut my anxiety in half, because I knew that, okay, maybe the times when I was like, I thought that I didn't sleep, but actually I slept. So it was like, okay, I got some sleep. So, it was calming me down, like, but it was like at the beginning. So now I'm just, I just, I don't know. I don't sleep, but I don't think about sleep at all,
Super nice to hear this. And, there was a couple more things. One thing I wanted to ask was, I know you had, I know at some point you talked about like educating others. You have an Instagram account, and you're thinking about writing a book, etc. Like, are you? And I mean, you're in such an amazing place to write a book if you would like that. But what are you thinking in terms of those like educating others, etc.?
Actually, I was like, yeah, I started Instagram account when I started. Like, initial thought was that I just wanted to write down everything what I learned, like from my perspective, like all the insights that I learned, like from you or from like by just like by myself or some other sources. And I just started writing down posts, and I didn't do anything. And actually, like somehow people started like following me. I don't know like what happens, but and this account is not active for a long time. But I still get like messages, and when someone writes me, I actually like I try to help them, but in a way that that of course like I don't become their coach, but I give them like pointers, and there's actually like usually my go-to advice is like some like initial about this kind of like, yes, being okay with not sleeping and so on. And I always like send them like to your channel, or read that book like by Sasha Stevens, or your books. So yeah, this is like how I redirect them, and I wasn't like dedicating that much, because I think like it's very difficult to deal with it in written when you want to write something, like even like the book by Sasha Stevens, like it's I think it has a lot of like great ideas and so on, but alone this book is like kind of, it doesn't give you like the whole like understanding of all these tiny nuances that can pop up along the way. So I think like in this kind of format, when you like you speak like with the others, like you tell like success stories or share some insights, I think this is much better like way how to like educate those people and help them to get better in this. So yeah. I'm glad to help anyone who is struggling, because I really like, I feel their pain, and I'm very like compassionate towards those people, like whatever, like they sometimes write me with like I could feel that they're so desperate, and I try to be like very, very gentle on them and understanding, and yeah. So
Absolutely.
And I'm glad if someone like who is listening now, then if they can like find something useful for themselves, I would be really glad.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you. I didn't want to put you on the spot, but since you said it yourself, what's your Instagram handle, or what do you call there?
It's I think actually slept. I already like I haven't been visiting that like that.
Oh yeah, I'll just put it in the description
Yeah.
instead. I was going to put it in the banner.
Yeah.
And then I guess a final question here. This journey through insomnia and learning so much about yourself, anxiety too. I imagine that it has helped in other areas of life as well. But has it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm anxious person like in my nature, so I just found that like when I start like fearing something, I already applied this kind of either this metacognition where you're just aware that okay, I'm avoiding this, or sometimes even this like kind of this fearless method that I actually like do the opposite just to prove it, like okay, I'm not scared, like whatever happens. And but with other things it's like much easier than with insomnia, because you like if you're afraid of something, you can get some shelter and escape for a while, like not forever, of course you cannot run forever, but there is like you can make it like take a break between the issue and yourself. But when it's sleep related thing, it's like night happens every day, every night basically.
Yes.
Like you cannot escape that, so you're forced to solve it every day. So I think that it is like definitely easier, I think, to solve some anxiety like that is not related to sleep. But this like anything that is related to sleep issues is just like full of paradoxes. It's like you have to be there every night, and you have to work on yourself.
100%. And then I think to spin that in a little bit of a positive way is that if you have sleep anxiety, if that happened now, then it is a tricky one because night happens every night. But once you have gotten to a place where you don't have that fear anymore, it's something that can help in so many other areas of life. So
actually, one more thing is that
yeah.
about fear, because I have like my kind of like response to insomnia was actually like very strong fear, but which was, I felt it in my body. Like it's not only like the heart beats faster, but it's also I had like, you know, feeling like weird feeling in my hands, and this was a symptom. I was also like was very afraid of it, and I wanted to go away. And actually with this I came to understanding that when this happens, like, you know, when I have these moments when I start feeling this kind of like fear like in my body, I just I don't think about it that okay, like insomnia is back or whatever. I just look at it from the perspective that at, I'm like, you know, like your like mind is not always like fixed, it's not in the same state every day, because sometimes you might be more vulnerable towards something, sometimes you might, you know, like you don't have stable mood or whatever, you know, whatever, it can be hormones, can be happen something at work, whatever. So I usually, when I have like this increase in anxiety, you know, like, and I always find a connection, it's either something in the air, you know, like, or at work or whatever, and I just take it as, you know, like as something giving. Okay, now I have this, you know, I'm just gonna wait through this. Yeah, I'm not doing anything for this feeling to go away, and I'm not scaring, like I'm not like looking ways to prevent it in the future, because I know when this happens, this physical like feeling in your body will eventually go away. And I know that I experienced it for so many times when I thought that this will never end. I will always have this kind of like awareness with this like crippling fear and so on, but it always went away. Like eventually, sometimes it took like, it just lasts like 1 hour, sometimes it's like 10 minutes, sometimes it could be like 4 days, whatever, but it always like ends. So
Yeah.
this is, and this is very important, like not to be scared of your like physical sensations, because like some people might not have it, but like for especially anxious people, this might be something that what they're really like afraid. So not even thoughts, not even the fact that they will be not sleeping, but it's also this kind of like they don't want this physical emotion. So basically treating it like insomnia, you know, like there is nothing you can actively do like to get rid of it. It's just like a program that runs automatically. This program was like, I once I wrote you that I think about this like a software which was created by, you know, like thousands of years, like of people who were like, you know, basically people wanted to escape danger and so on. And so this program of feeling this fight or flight response is like programmed in us, and it's automatic. We cannot control it, you know. And when we stop interfering into it, trying to somehow, you know, fix it, it will go away by itself. It always does.
Yeah, 100%. So important, that too. So yeah, I want to say, you know, I can tell you want to help others, etc. So what we should definitely do is, you I don't know if you've seen this because you haven't been watching so much lately, but I've been starting to do this, what I call like open class with someone like yourself, where we kind of answer questions together. So we should definitely do that.
Yeah, I would like to.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Alina, and
Thank you.
stay in touch.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Bye bye.
Bye.